The Guest stars Dan Stevens and is directed by Adam Wingard, who brought you You're Next and some of the short films in the VHS anthologies. This film is only playing in very limited release right now, and since I was recently in LA to visit the Schmoes Know podcast and AMC Movie Talk and Screen Junkies and a whole bunch of awesome shows that I still can't believe I got to do because I'm just a guy who likes movies and it's crazy and it's surreal and I was crying and it was amazing and I loved it. I did have time to check out The Guest because I wanted to see it because I have no idea when this film is opening where I live. What this film is about is a guy who shows up on the doorstep of a family and says that he was with their son who has since deceased in a war. Because of this, they invite him inside, he starts to talk about his past, and they let him stay there for a while, and all of a sudden, bodies start to show up around town, and a lot of weird stuff happens. And this movie is freaking amazing. The Guest is one of the biggest surprises of the year because I personally found that You're Next was an okay movie that was way overhyped. So I went into The Guest skeptical, and oh my goodness, this movie is fantastically entertaining. I gotta talk about the soundtrack. This is such a cool 80s soundtrack. A lot of people have compared it to the Drive soundtrack, very symphonic. Lots of really cool tunes. I loved it. I got the soundtrack now. But a lot of it is also like John Carpenter's older soundtracks for his horror films from the 80s, and I love that aspect about it. It really played a character in this movie. Also fantastic is Dan Stevens as the guest, the man who comes over, and you're like, this guy is wrong. He's so good at appearing nice and gentlemanly, and you're like, yeah, you're cool, man, I'll be your friend. And when you see him do some of the stuff he does, you see how much range this actor has. He's fantastic as this character. You could really feel that he was just eating this role up, and he had such a good time playing this villainous character. He infiltrates this family in every single way, and the filmmakers did a really clever job of doing that. He goes to the son's school and tries to get involved with the bullies there that are bothering the young boy. He goes to a party with the daughter and he kind of filtrates into her friend group. He's talking with the dad about money issues. He's talking with the mom about her son. And in some strange ways, he's actually helping this family. But it can't last for long because that mysterious past keeps coming back to him. This is an awesome, stylish movie with an amazing soundtrack that is consistently mesmerizing. It's a great action horror hybrid that harkens back to the 80s in the best way. These guys obviously have a lot of respect for 80s horror, except they also know how to kind of make a good movie. So that really helps make The Guest a lot better than the majority of the 80s horror films. Because while I certainly love watching me some 80s horror, I also admit that a large majority of them really aren't good movies, if you know what I mean. These guys understand how to make a good movie, and it also has a great Halloween vibe to it. And I'm talking about the actual holiday. It just really feels as if you are watching a town that's in the midst of its Halloween time, and they sold that really well in a great scene in a Halloween haunted house. The Guest is actually one of my favorite movies I've seen so far this year. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. I'm not going to talk too much about the plot or too much about certain things because I really think it's one of those movies where you just kind of have to go in and watch the awesomeness unfold because it's such a fun blend of so many different genres, and I can tell the filmmakers really have a lot of respect for 80s horror and 80s action because it's all blended into one. And if you like to drive, definitely check this movie out because there's some similarities to the way it's stylish like that. My only issue with this movie is that when you learn some things about his past and they cut back to some of the places where this guy originates, I found that it deviated from the tone of the rest of the movie and that some of those scenes felt very conventional. I'm going to give The Guest an A. I love this movie and I can't wait for you guys to see it. I strongly, strongly recommend it. Guys, what's your favorite 80s horror or 80s action movie? I'd love to know below. And as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.